And of course, we're talking even on the continent of Africa. Now, in Nigeria, it's about CAF President Patrice Motsepe believing the Super Eagles can win the World Cup. When? Well, Paulo Nwachu is hungry. Having played in Belgium for quite a while now, setting and breaking records at will. The man wants a bigger challenge. Said, and I quote, "I want to play in a big league." Well, in the Carabao Cup, EFL Cup, call it what you like. We're down to the last 8. We talk about Manchester United, Manchester City, the likes of Charlton Athletic, Leicester City, not forgetting Newcastle, and those left. Well, Eric Ten Hag is talking, and he's set his sights on some massive ambitions as the league resumes all across Europe. But we'll keep our conversations to the English Premier League while you join us on 090-222-310-110-27 624-8565. Andre Onana is back making headlines this afternoon. My name is Raj James. It's an exciting afternoon to be back here. It's a full house. And let's get talking in verified details. Join the conversation as well on our verified Facebook page. That's Planet Radio 101.1 FM. You're underneath the live feed. Drop a comments there. And we're tracking that for you every step of the way. Welcome officially. Well, Bladden, yesterday was about Patrice Motsepe. FIFA World Cup as early as 2026, following what Morocco did at the World Cup in Qatar just gone by. And now, less than 24 hours later, the man has come up with a bombshell. Well, there are reasons to it, but he says he believes Super Eagles can win the World Cup. You believe? At least until Jesus Christ comes.
Wow, difficult to believe what you believe, right, James? I think what I believe is different. Here's it. I believe the first African side that will win the World Cup would be the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We have potentials. Here's it. I think if you look at the history of the World Cup and the team that's played the best kind of football at the World Cup yesteryears, you agree with me, it would be the 94 squad. Maybe I've not watched the World Cup into the 50s and the 70s, but when it has to do with the 90s downward, I've not seen any African squad, even the Senegalese squad in 2002 that was pretty decent, that have played the level of football the Super Eagles played in 94. Long gone, many would say, but when it has to do with talent, chunking out talent, I think Nigeria has got it. Over 200 million people. All that's left is to harness it, bring the good facilities around, and this way it could start having a good coach. Personally, I do not believe that the current crops of Super Eagles are so bad. When I hear people talk about it and they say, oh, they're bad compared to the Moroccans, I believe we have decent players. Not just believe. I've seen decent players in the squad. If you go around Europe and you try to find out in different leagues who are the top scorers, we hear Nigerians here and there scattered around, from the Belgium league to the French League on, and talk about the Italian league. We can see top players from Nigeria doing the magic, but yet we couldn't qualify for the World Cup. It goes to show something, that there's problem knitting these players together, having the right coach. That's where it should start for me. A coach that would be consistent with the side. If we do this, I can tell you, Nigeria, the Super Eagles, can shock the world. Can it be 2026? I do not know. But in a short time, we have the talents that if harnessed properly, we can shock the world and win the World Cup.
Right now, Mari, let's look at Patrice Motsepe's interview. Now, said, and I quote, "I'm absolutely confident because of the talent, God-given skills, and the history of Nigerian football. Nigeria is one of those countries that have the potential not just to go to the semi-finals, not just to go to the finals, but to win the World Cup." Now, to make that happen, he went on to list some of the CAF programs for its member countries. Now saying, and I quote, focus on youth football development, football facilities for boys and girls, amateur football, football development at club level, training coaches and training the trainers. The development of referees are very important, and to make sure that we work together with the Football Federation of Nigeria so that they can continue the leadership that they provided for many years. We're confident that Nigerian football will continue to be not just amongst the best in Africa, but the best in the world, and will make you proud as it has on so many occasions in the past. Our plan is to see Nigeria in the next World Cup. Now, he's gone on to list programs as designed by CAF to help Nigeria achieve this dream he has for our country. Now, it's talked about football development, youth development, football facilities for boys and girls, amateur football, football development at club level, training of coaches and training of the trainers, development of referees, and everything within the football sector to make it work. Now, it looks good on paper. Is this achievable in reality?
If we want it to be achievable, right? If we want to achieve, we would achieve it, right? Clearly, we had a conversation, I think it was 2 days ago, was the secretary of the NFF talking about the fact that we Nigerians can perform the same feats as the Moroccans if everybody, the stakeholders, decide to work towards a common goal. That's the thing. Nothing is impossible if everybody comes out to work towards it. That's the story. And unfortunately, Nigeria, and of course, stakeholders in this country, when it comes to football, have not just worked towards making football great in this country. They've come there with some personal interest and personal objectives, and then when they get to those offices, they only do the biddings of their personal whims and whims, basically. So that's the problem. If we can come together, I think I would always use Morocco as the standard, as a benchmark, basically, because from the federal government to the Minister of Sports in that country to the very last individual in position of authority in football clearly worked towards the goal of developing football in the country. They invested so much, and then they made sure that the monies went into what they wanted the monies to go into. So that's the problem. If we can fix the problem of accountability in this country, transparency, and of course the problem of corruption, basically, in not just football in the country, but holistic society, that we see a developed Nigerian society. But until then, right, it's difficult because Motepe is talking about amateur leagues, boys and girls competitions. We see these competitions in flashes. We saw the Real Madrid under 15 tournament, which you thought was going to be consistent, but it never was. We saw the under 15 promise tournament as well, but it was never consistent as well. So these competitions come, but they don't just get consistent. And I think it boils down to the body language of the administrators and stakeholders, because if they want it to be consistent, it will be consistent. That's the problem. If we can work together to achieve a common goal, it's achievable. But until then, we'll wait.
Emmanuel, Mario said up until then we would have to wait. How long do you think we'd have to wait?
It depends on the platform of the administrators and everybody in the country as far as football is concerned, because as far as I am concerned, nothing is impossible under this earth planet.
No, internal call you short there. Now, when you say he's on the doorstep of the football administrators, now as fans, huge stakeholders in the business, what role do we have to play to expedite this process?
The role we have to play as far as this process is concerned is to ensure that we continue to voice out, we continue to suggest to those in position of authority what they ought to do and how they ought to do it, and we should also present it in a way that will enable them to just consider the suggestion. Because as far as I am concerned, as far as you are concerned, and as far as everyone is concerned, the football lovers, everyone knows what we should do as far as our football development is concerned. But the problem is that when we bring in politics, we try to merge politics and governance as far as football administration is concerned, it becomes a problem. We shouldn't really have to wait for too long. This thing, all this suggestion, it is possible, it is achievable, but the problem we have is to do the right thing at the right time. We have the talent, but why don't we just put on the facilities and put on the enabling environment that will allow this talent to thrive? That is one of the problems we have in Nigeria football.
Now, let's leave that conversation for a bit and talk about talent. He's playing on the global stage, but he wants an even bigger platform. So, your friend Paul Onuachu is hoping he'll get the chance to play in one of Europe's top leagues soon. Onuachu's performed consistently, we understand that, for Genk over the last 3 seasons. scored 33 goals in 38 league appearances during the 2020-2021 campaign last season. He netted 21 times in 35 league outings for the Smurfs. Has already got 14 and 16 games across all competitions for the Belgian Pro League outfit this particular term. Well, looks like his start just being in Belgium. He wants something bigger, something more.
Well, absolutely, Bright. You know, a footballer, you know, of his caliber, 28 years of age, you know, he's supposed to be playing at the top level of, you know, the Premier, a top level of a club in Europe as well. But you know, Mari did say something, you know, a couple of weeks ago that, you know, one thing is like there's something that is lacking, you know, with our Nigerian players has to be, you know, looking for the right agent and that will get a better club for them. You know, that is what is lacking, you know, from the likes of Osimhen, you have Kelechi Iheanacho and other lads in that particular mix, you know. But it's about progression. You know, if you play at, you know, Belgium, your next determination has to be, you know, if you score 12 goals this season, try to score 20 goals next season and see how you can leave that particular, you know, just like the case of Victor Osimhen. He played at Lille and gradually his agent was able to, you know, get him a better club. He played for currently at Napoli. You know, his next decision has to be, let me increase my goal tally, you know, look for a way I can, you know, make my trademark at this particular club, then also try and see how I can play in the next, you know, in one of the top leagues, and also play in where they are having top competition, talking of the Europa League and also not forgetting the Champions League as well. That is the only way Paul Onacho can get, you know, a next club in that particular, score more goals, be consistent, and also be ready and also be fit for any time you are being called up to do your normal.
Now, Mari, very quickly, let's still stay talk about Onacho. You know, X-raying his statement, said, and I quote, "I score a lot. You know, I like being here, but if there's an interesting offer this winter or next summer, we'll look at it together with Gang, because I still dream of playing in a B league. I have done more than other players who've made a transfer, and yet it seems it hasn't happened, but I believe God's timing is the best." Now, we've talked about faith. You know, that's a different conversation. But on football, we know how it works. We know the importance of a proper football agent, someone who's able to sell your market, basically. Paul Onacho as a player has done his bit. You look at the numbers, he's been consistent, particularly with Genk in the Belgian Pro League over the last couple of seasons. Is it just the agent, or is there another missing pieces to why Paul Onacho, despite attracting interest from Europe's finest clubs, he hasn't been able to get something concrete, some big and decent move away from Belgium?
Bright, I think it's the agents, basically. That's what I want to think. Because you look at, you know, we're talking about any other thing. You know, he doesn't have humongous wage demands, you know, and then he's still in his prime, you know, to compete well, and then he's consistently scored over 30 goals for the past 3 seasons. That's enough to catch the eye of any big club in Europe. Not entirely maybe a top 4, but a proper football club playing the trade in European scene, the top 5 European clubs particularly, and then he's not gotten that. And I think it boils down to his agent, because you look at Victor Osimhen, he had to sack his former agent to get a move to Napoli. You know, obviously the former agent just could not, you know, cross those things, because as an agent you do a lot basically in trying to pitch these players to top clubs, and of course if you don't have, you know, the contact with this club, how do you pitch them? You know, so it's a thing of having a good agent who has got contact with these big clubs and then calling them and say, well, I've got a star here, his name is Paul Onacho, he scores 30 plus. I mean, look at the players from the Belgian League to, you know, top clubs. They've done very well, you know, from, you know, what's his name, Leandro Trossard, to Romelu Lukaku, to Michy Batshuayi, you know, to Yuri Tillemans. You know, fantastic players who've left, you know, Amadou Onana, who've left Belgium to perform very well. So there's no gainsaying that Onacho would perform well if he leaves there. But the problem is he's gotten the right agent, obviously, and that's been the case over time. You know, like I talked about Victor Osimhen, if he never sacked that agent, I don't think that move would have gone through.
Now, Blyden, while we're talking about the agents, Paul Onacho as a player, you've seen him play over time. You've followed the development of his game. You think he's ready for the kind of leap he's looking to make?
Well, hard to tell. Maybe probably if I see him in a big league. But I've seen the progress from Paul Onacho. I'm listening to Mari talk about agent. For me, sometimes it's not just basically about agent, because you can look at the finest players in the world. Sometimes it's not about the agent. We've mentioned a couple of names, but the difference between these names and Paul Onacho is none of them was 28. Paul Onacho is 28, playing in the Belgian league. And secondly, he's African at 28. And that's concerning from European point of view. Most European countries don't really go for 28-year-old as an African, especially if you're moving from a Belgium league. For me, that could be that limitation. He's a tall, huge guy. But on the other hand, the limitation with Paul Onacho's game is he's slow. typically that slow guy, not very good with his footwork, but utilizes his head very well, scoring goals, and that could be the limitation. But I think Paul has gotten to a point, and another thing could be the price tag from the club gang. Recent times we've heard about those speculations, and gang wanted to sell him at an average of 20 million thereabout. And it could be concerning for a 28-year-old from Belgium League who's an African for other clubs. At some point also, I expected probably to go to a top side in the Belgium League, maybe Club Brugge. And Gang had said no, he's not going anywhere to Club Brugge. We want to make money off him. So those are for me the basic limitations for the Paulo Noche. I can guarantee you, if Paulo Noche was 22, 23, banging in those goals, he would have been going. We'll be talking about Manchester United and the rest coming for Paulo Noche. Surely. That's what it would be.
The truth is,
on the other hand, you can talk about maybe agents one day or the other. But basically, he's 28. That's the limitation.
This issue of Paul Onwachu not being able to secure a move didn't start today. It's been there. He joined Genk in 2019 and he hit the ground running. That he was 24 by then.
How many seasons?
Yeah, that's 4 seasons ago. So I mean, after he's got,
I doubt he's up to 4 seasons. No,
it's
2019 seasons.
2019, 2020, full season, and then 2021, and then this 21-22. That's 3 seasons. Consistently putting up that kind of performance.
This should be the 3rd season.
Yeah, this should be towards the end of the 3rd season, because the calendar is not the same.
This should be the 3rd season.
Yeah, the 3rd season.
It should be the 3rd season.
But consistently doing that 2 years.
And you look at this is what you have to also look at it.
Yeah.
He was 24. Moved from where?
Yeah, from Midtjylland.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Denmark, right?
Obviously.
And moving to Club Brugge a step forward. So how long do you expect a player to be in a club? 2 years plus, and he's shown what he can do. But sadly, at this point, he's 28. That's the conversation. Had one decent season, we saw it. Plagued with injury afterwards. With that long span injury, a lot of clubs will be scared. Yeah, we can also factor an agent, maybe. But I would expect Paulo Noche to go to a club like maybe a top side in Europe. Maybe probably go to what's it called, French Ligue 1. That's what I'm looking at, or maybe a decent side in the Premier League.
A mid-table side in Spain would be okay for me.
Mid-table, wouldn't go to mid-table.
There was a speculation that Aston Villa were also looking for services.
Yeah.
That was last month.
I'm looking, and you'd critically look at Aston Villa, Solarex. You look at the quality of strikers they have. They've got Danny Ings, they've got Ollie Watkins. Is he any better compared to the two? There's something different he brings compared to the two available, because now if you're looking at bringing in a striker, it's going to be either an upgrade on what you have, or bring something different. Factor in the complexity of the Premier League and how they play as well.
Well, Brett, when you look at those 2 strikers you've mentioned, talking of Watkins, he's very good on his he's very good with the foot and also with the head as well. Talking of Danny Ings from Southampton to Aston Villa, these are players who have established themselves in the Premier League as well. They know how to play the game. So if Paulo Noche is going to Aston Villa, he is definitely going to play as a second fiddle to those guys, because they know the job more than he does.
That's third fiddle.
Okay, there you go. So they know the job more than he does.
Let's also look at a sequence. Other Nigerian players that have moved from the smaller clubs, where do they go to if they're coming to the English Premier League? I think the last player that moved to a club from one of these Eastern Europe countries, what's his name now, that played with MNK at the time, I always forget his name.
Brownie
Deye. He went to West Brom and was a total disappointment at West Brom. Look, we talk about Julius Agawa at the time, moved from Ukraine to the Premier League. Was a disappointment too at that time. So this is how it works. Most times you see an African player, not African now, typical Nigerian player, move from the smaller leagues. They go to the Championship first. That's basically what we see. Even the great Yakubu Ayegbeni in the English Premier League at the time had to go to the Championship first, then be successful at Championship, then graduate into the Premier League. But the Premier League is so fast.
In contrary, Wilfried left Ghent, in Belgium, to Leicester City. He's been a key performer since then. Well, I don't want to talk about Frank Onyeka, but he left Midtjylland in Denmark to the Premier League. Straight.
Osaso Devinge also left Sparta Moscow. To Stoke City, to
West Brom.
To West Brom first. Yeah, you understand. So it doesn't have to be that template entirely.
And another factor you have to look at: what was the fee? They were quite cheap.
In this
era, Paul Onocho right now cannot go at a cheap price.
In this era right now, £50 million it's not big money.
It's big for
it's not. I don't think it is.
Most Premiership clubs won't do that.
I don't think it is.
Now it depends on where he's going to. Maybe we've seen a club like Nottingham Forest was their club record fee.
Let's look at it.
Now,
And it would be in English.
Yeah, now it's a little over 20.
25.
Yeah, 25 million pounds, right?
And some of them might just be English or moving from Championship.
Yeah, because we saw that.
Where you're moving is
We saw that transfer fee smashed twice.
20
Taiwo
something.
Wani brought in a little over 15 million pounds
from the German league.
Yeah, and of course we had Emmanuel Dennis joining from Watford,
who has been in the Premier League before.
Yeah,
so if you calling that price tag,
but I think
you're not going to Liverpool.
I understand the conversation, and of course, the club basically as it relates to valuation of players and what they have to pay. But I think if there were actually concrete conversations, right, these teams, Genk would actually reach a consensus and agree to let this guy go on a reduced fee.
I wouldn't want to believe.
And that depends on how much the agent pushes the conversation.
But this is it. I understand we're going to the agent conversation. I'm not excluding the agent's conversation. And probably have a top-notch agent, your value even improves in the market because, come on, you're working with this agent, so it makes a lot of sense. But look at it the way it is right now. The structure of Paulo Nacho on the Premier League and how it plays, it could be just difficult. Don't worry, Brad James, continue.
All right, so I'm just looking at my time.
I'm being oppressed by what you guys are doing with your hands. Mari and Bright just have things by their left hand.
Never knew.
Mari has
some red thing.
Right, he told me I need to get myself.
Permit me to brag, right? My dad bought this for me.
Oh,
my dad gave this to me.
Mine never stops. Mine never stops to amaze.
Inter Milan goalkeeper. Well, he's announced his retirement from international football. Nana was dropped by Cameroon for 2 of their 3 group stage games at the FIFA World Cup after a disagreement with head coach Rigobert Song. His 26 made one appearance for the Indomitable Lions at the tournament. The goalie announced on social media that he will no longer represent his country. Wrote, and I quote, "Every story has its end, and my story with the Cameroon national team has come to an end. Players come and go, names are fleeting, but Cameroon remains eternal, and so does my love for the national team and for our people who have always supported us, no matter how difficult the moment is." So Lawrence, I'll begin with you. Does this sound like a long-term solution or a long-term decision rather, or it's just about the emotions of the now and the disappointment of being dropped and the disagreement he had with Rigobert Song? You see the decision lasting?
Well, right, I think Rigobert Song and Samuel Eto'o need to be blamed for this particular one because it's not just a miss for the Cameroonian. Mendy for Senegal, and also so Bright is a big miss for him, and I feel for him. I just feel they can rectify this particular, just like the Hakim Ziyech story, in which he had with his coach as well. Just go back, try and see how you can sort things out. He's not the first player who has come out to announce his retirement and still go back to play for the national team as well. So let him just see how he can, twist this thing and see how he can go back to the national team as well, because he's still young, 26 years of age. He has a lot to offer, for the Cameroon national team as well, Bright.
Right now, Emma, it looks like when a situation where this man still needs his country and his country clearly still needs him, despite that disagreement at the World Cup with Rigobert Song and Samuel Eto'o.
Yes, it's true. Andre Onana needs his country, and his country needs him, and Africa needs him, because someone of that caliber, someone of that status, playing his trip with Inter Milan in Italy. I was very happy when he made that move from Ajax Amsterdam to Inter Milan, but because of the misunderstanding in the national team, he has come out to announce his retirement. I think those in authority, the coach, the AV chairman, everybody, they should do everything humanly possible to ensure that they put all these things behind. I know this could be due to emotion, but not something that he would really love to do, but as a result of emotion due to what transpired in the past. I think some players have had issues with the national team, but they always find a way of rectifying the issue, putting everything behind them to progress and make the beautiful game of football to progress as well. But on the case of Andre Onana, for him to just retire at the national team, not even up to age of I think it's not even up to 30.
No, it's 26.
It's 2016. This is really, really very sad. I think those involved, they should do everything humanly possible to get this young man back, because for him to play straight with Inter Milan is some level of pride on the part of Africa, and for him not to represent his country, it's a problem. I know that service of humanity is a very painful sacrifice, and where you have two or more people working together, there are bound to be conflicts. But the ability to put aside the conflict and ensure that life goes on is a very good step. Is a very good platform to talk about maturity.
Emmanuel date in bracket 2022. So I should add that.
All right. So does this look sound hasty to you?
Sorry?
Does this look hasty? Sound hasty? The decision?
Yeah, it is. It's just an aftermath of the event that took place at the World Cup. While he's doing this, and he's looking at it, Epasi gave a decent World Cup performance, but Epasi is playing at Saudi Pro League. So, and he's 29, but for me on the other hand, I think it just boils down to the stakeholders coming together, trying to see how to resolve it. Ideally, if I were to advise Onana, he would have done this, but it just showed a picture of what happened at Morocco with Hakim Ziyech at the time, and he'll be hoping there's a new coach for the side before he could return to the national team, or except Rigobert Song steps up the model and tells him, come on, you have to come back to the national team. Former is just hasty, it's out of emotion, and I really hope they get to sort it out. Not many African countries have quality goalkeepers. Nigeria is looking for one now. If we had Onana, it would have been better.
All right, now join the conversation on 090-222-310-1027 624-565. Even as we tell about United drawing League One side Charlton Athletic in the Carabao Cup quarter finals. Now the other draws: Southampton taking Manchester City, who saw Liverpool 3-2 last night. Nottingham Forest versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Newcastle versus Leicester City. The matches will be played in the week beginning January 9th. 090-222-310-1027 624-565. The Premier League is back.
What he's saying is true, because if you check at the last World Cup they just finished now, the kind of quality of football and the pitch playing that other country play apart from Morocco is not there. So in West Africa, no country play like Nigeria that brought much fans and more entertainment in the field than Nigeria. So if Gabriel says so, that means he has seen the last season and they have seen the loss that lost in this present World Cup that just finished, being in fans, in entertainment, in every other aspect. So he's saying the right thing, and if Nigeria can put their house in order, I believe you can win the World Cup. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining. You're appreciated. So if we put our house in order, we can win the World Cup. That sounds like an easy statement. The most difficult would be, how do we put our house in order? Welcome, football fan. Name location. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, hello. Good evening.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, this is McNair speaking, calling from Itu local government.
All right.
Sorry, I'm not feeling too well, but
Sorry about that.
Something got me so interested I had to call. Concerning what the CAF president said, I remember way back when Westerhoff took this young lads that said then. I remember what was his name? IBB, who worked with High Homo and excluded NFF. You know, like we all know, everything in Nigeria is politics. I remember way back seeing this man go down to the suburbs, Ajegule. I remember in Waisan, that was when Sunday Churchill started the scouting. This man sits right there in Waisan watching scouting and all that. You know, that was real love. You know, it was not like it was the best of coaches, but he dug deep. You know, you see them very, well, these guys, in fact, most of them playing on the sand, beach football, because that is where you see the lapses. Everywhere the muscles build up before they now talk about. So, I think the announcing, I remember I went to the US and just lack of little experience. when I think was it a Bebeto, so they used us because they tried everything to subdue these Africans, but they were just there. So all I see, if they are truly ready and forget about politics, good enough. This the former CAF president is no more there. So if they can really go, because after that World Cup, I remember Nigeria was the fifth in the world and the second most entertaining team, and since then Sepp Blatter said, oh no, Nigeria must be there for everything. So the media is involved, everything is involved. These politicians that believe that politics everything, they just
wrap it up for us.
Their asses.
No.
All right then.
No, that's this is radio. We can't use that. It's not radio friendly. All right. Mind the
Hello,
language.
this is Radio Senator calling for Doro here.
Yeah, Radio Senator. Good to have you join us.
Yesterday, I like the way you people informed me about that FA Cup and EFL. How much they are. Because we normally argue here. For me, okay, let me go to that place. You know, cannot we leave them. They will go and select. This one is playing in this country, this one is playing in this country. I just say, perform nonsense. But for me, I just want my guy there to enforce me again. The reason why I'm talking like we normally argue.
No, don't argue. Don't always argue. It's not necessary to always argue. No, that's not a good place to argue, Seth.
Which day do you argue? You in the church?
Yeah, you are arguing in your house. Well, your head is calm. Your head is calm. You are arguing with clear mind.
My son, please let me include me with I just want to hear about the Champions League. Then let me know how many Chelsea collect, because Chelsea now have 2 Champions League, and after that have almost either 12 or 21 teams.
What?
FA Cup. We want to calculate the money. Thank you.
No, I'm not sure we're doing that. We don't have the time for that thing.
Why did I get about money in the drinking parlor?
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, welcome. Go ahead, talk to us.
You say I should talk? I will talk, and I will greet you. Keep on doing your good job. God will help you so that they hear what you are hitting. Tell them, politicians, to remove hand from football district administration in Nigeria before we can be able to carry World Cup. Westerhoff teach us a lot of what we're supposed to follow you. In school, you know your best lecturer, which advise you on what to do and not what to do. Otto Glory is the only coach in Nigeria that took us far, small. Before Godwin Odie scored Nigeria, we didn't go that World Cup. Before Westerhoff. Westerhoff go to Ikomo, collect what he wants, and go and do his job the way he wanted. He didn't wait for NPFL because they are out to direct him on what to do, but he direct them. Westerhoff try for Nigeria. Him and Joe, they tried. They show us the way of running football in Nigeria, but politicians doesn't want us. Bright, I greet you. Continue from where you stop today, telling them to remove their hand from football. Give it to our ex-footballers to run for us. Look at Cameroon. Look at Portugal. Look at Senegal. Look at all these countries surrendering us. Are we giant for nothing in football? We're supposed to be a giant for something and show Africa that we are the best.
All right.
Other Africans have already been telling you before that football in Nigeria is
gone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bright.
Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you.
My name is Rich from you. Sincerely, the reason why I actually feel like this today because everybody that plays ball in this pipe, look at this very well. How to show them is they have to, but we have a lot of talent everywhere in the street of Nigeria that can deliver, that can just what we want as a country. The thing is just that the positions and other top levels are not giving much attention to them. That's why you're not really. When I watch that Ghana, I see the way we go. It made me remember that statement that Jesus made, like it's finished. That's what the prophetic word to the Nigerian football is. That it's finished completely. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much for joining. Well, we're cutting in bits, but I think we got the message. We'll take two more, and of course, we'll look at other football matches.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Right, this Dominic. Right, all this that we are just complaining, it's just like sometimes seems to be unnecessary, because the players' mentality sometimes in the field, I always complain, because when we have some names that represent us effectively, but all of a sudden, when they are playing, sometimes you see how they play, it sounds like, or it feels like they are unconcerned about giving all to Nigeria. So sometimes we don't blame the administration, because before they left, maybe they promised them with some money, but for you to enter the field and just play as a professional, I always would like to mention, sometimes it is not the fault of a coach, but somehow Nigeria needs a high-profile coach, a coach with a strong attitude. If you don't give him what you want, you as a player, you are being sacked. Because especially what people are just saying is nothing but the truth. The right candidate will not be able to represent Nigeria. Instead, it will be from your behind, or from a certain politician behind.
All right, Dominic.
Those players, some of them, when they play, they know that even though they don't perform, they will still be called to represent Nigeria. So I always fault our players. Sometimes the way they play shows they play like doesn't concern me.
Thank you very much. Points made. Appreciate
Hello,
it.
Bright.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Yeah, this is Patrick calling from Chongbang in Iran. Bright, please permit me to use our local dialect.
Well, use English. Use English. Just go ahead. Use English.
Why?
Use English. The local dialect, you can go to Tangsio. Tangsio, you use the local. Here, we use English.
Okay,
right?
okay. Right.
Thank you.
Let me start by saying that as long as Nigeria is concerned, to be very sincere, I don't know whether we will go far as long as football is concerned. Concerning, as in, why am I saying that? Is that right? All these local academy, right, they can, as in, call it, or let me say, as in, the academy owners, they cannot shoot out our youngest players then. That is, as in, call it, the most problem that we are having in Nigeria. Politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, your point we get, and we appreciate it. I take one more. Mari's got us covered on Facebook. Welcome, football fan. Name, location. Hello, football fan. Your name, your location. Hello.
Good day, Dwight. I think you're calling from you.
All right. Welcome, UK.
Yeah. I don't mean to be a pessimist, but saying that Nigeria could win the next World Cup, or even a World Cup in the nearest future, that's like saying that if a chicken believes it can fly like an eagle in the sky. They are good birds, but they are built differently. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but if a whole lot of things are not changed, it's almost difficult, impossible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, UK, for joining. Appreciate you. Well, Facebook after now. I will tell you about the introduction in the Premier League. Well, there's a man who's back. Howard Webb is his name. But what will his role be on his return to the English football world, the English Premier League to be very particular? We'll talk about this and so much more. Transfers. Solix has got us covered alongside Barry. The latest transfer stories right here with us. Back in a bit.
Nothing unites the world like football. Join the football community here on Planet 101 FM Uyo. Passion, pride.
We'll hear from the Chief Refereeing Officer, PGMOL, talking about Howard Webb in a bit. Meanwhile, the conversation from Howard Webb is that he wants to encourage former professional players to take up officiating. Well, the man's returned to English football after 5 years in the US, having been named the first Chief Refereeing Officer of the Professional Game Match Officials Limited.
It's worth taking that time to ensure the job is done properly. But if you're talking about one isolated judgment of whether something's clear and obviously wrong, then it shouldn't take that amount of time. And again, a lot of the guidance and coaching that I'll be giving is around not overthinking it, not looking too hard, just looking for those clear errors that jump off the screen at you.
And now, Blyden, no intent cutting, Mr. Howard Webb there, but that's the frustration of the average football fan. Now, the average football fan will tell you what it takes too long, so the decision should be reached quicker, and it should be a lot simpler. And he's made a statement, and it really caught my attention. It was the VR is not there to re-referee the game; it's there to help the referee pick up, give him a second chance at looking at some controversial incidences he may have missed in the course of officiating the game, and that really is what it should be about, isn't it?
I really hope Vieira was available when Howard Webb was officiating on the field of play. It could have solved a lot of problems. But here is it for me. One of the key things I picked from Howard was about a consistency. And on the other hand, it could be quite frustrating for me. But I think these days we're beginning to enjoy the frustration while it's taking that time, and it becomes part of the emotions, especially at the World Cup. I'm just wondering why they're not coming up with a decision at once, and everyone is raising their hands up and saying, what's happening? Come on, Vieira. It's becoming part of the job, but it could be smoother and better for me. It could just be smoother and better. All
right, now, Mari, let's go to Facebook quickly. Well, Solarites, gets ready with transfer stories. What's happening there?
Yeah, right here on the sports page, Micah Elijah says, "Good afternoon, Sports Grid." So it was a great win for us yesterday after the World Cup. I also want to use the opportunity to congratulate our number 19 who won the World Cup with Messi. Kudos to him. 3 points await us in Boxing Day against Leeds United. I think he's a Manchester City fan. Isaiah Ekbe says, "I wish Haaland and Mbappe good luck because they are the next GOAT after Messi and Ronaldo era." Secondly, apart from goals, what Ronaldo used ahead of Messi is age. Mike Anyekan says, "Good afternoon, guys. Compliment of the season. I can't wait for second phase of season to resume. We've had dates like this before, so I'm not surprised. The NFF will still change the date." And finally, from the sports page, Misaro Jared says, "What an easy win into the semi-final. Glory, Manchester United. I'm very sure our coach Eric Ten Hag will win a trophy for us this season, so we keep our hopes high."
All right, so that's Ten Hag. Meanwhile, Emma, this man has set his sights. He was planning throughout the World Cup break to ensure United remain on track for, possibility of picking up more than one trophy in this particular season. Well, he wants to end here, at least win something. He's targeting top 4 and trophies ahead of the Premier League resumption. Now, you look at the competitions they're in, realistically, which you think they've got a chance of winning? And have they got a chance of making top 4 as well?
I think they've got a chance of making the top 4, and they have also got a chance of winning the Carabao Cup. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes you will expect some level of upset from this championship club on a lower some of the clubs playing in the lower tier. But if you look at what he has been able to do in the Carabao Cup, he has been able to stamp authority and gradually integrating the likes of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Martin Dubravka and Garnacho of Argentina in. And if he continues that way, it will be something to look out for. And I think he should also keep his faith high in playing the Europa League, despite the fact that he will be playing Barcelona. He needs to prepare. If he can do very well in the Europa League, make the top 4, and at least lay hand on the coveted Carabao Cup trophy, it will be something to look out for, which is very, very achievable.
I know. I never knew the Carabao Cup was so much coveted. Now let's do transfers.
It is
very quickly.
Yeah, Brett. Arsenal always making headlines as usual. From the Mail, Arsenal are trying to sign 27-year-old French midfielder Andre Roberts, who will be out of contract at Juventus by this summer. Then Arsenal are yet to decide whether they will let Portugal defender, talking of Cedric, leave this journey, with Fulham leading the race to sign the 31-year-old defender. Then Crystal Palace are interested in re-signing English defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Manchester United since leaving Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest have joined Fulham in the race to sign Mali midfielder, talking of Abdoulaye Doucouré from Everton. Then Leeds United have made inquiry about Everton's English centre-back Mason Holgate, with Lyon also interested in signing him. Then Leeds first team head coach, talking of Mark Jackson, is in talks with MK Dons over their vacant manager position.
Right, now, Ronaldo is on the verge of signing with Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr on a 7-year deal that would also see him serve as an ambassador for the country's 2030 World Cup bid. That's according to Marca. The deal we hear split into two parts, with the first 2.5 years as a player before he will move on to assist in a joint bid with Egypt and Greece to secure the rights for the 2030 World Cup. He will earn a reported 200 million euros per season for the period in which he will be registered as a player, but the report adds that his figure will increase once he undertakes his ambassadorial duties. Wow. Matthew Quinn has confirmed in an Instagram post that he will be leaving Atletico Madrid in January. We understand. And away from that, Mexico goalkeeper Guillermo Ochoa has joined Serie A side Salernitana on a free transfer from Club America on a contract until June 2023 rather, the Italian club announced earlier today. A couple of points of bounce. One.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sport analyst, Mr. Easy on the line.
Yeah, welcome, Mr. Easy.
It has been a while since after the king of the football have won the crown. Qatar. I want to say congratulations to Argentina. And let me quickly come back home to the issue of Nigeria that are making a comment by a certain ex-footballer that Nigeria will win a World Cup. And he has his own opinion to come out and make the view, because we have the other country who overwhelming Nigeria now in Africa. Why can't he make a comment and touch those countries like even the Morocco, Senegal, and the rest of them are more judged than Nigeria. So it is their opinion. I think if the Super Eagles, the Nigeria Football Association, can keep their house in order, renting in order, and also select a quality player. No.
All right, Mr. Easy, sorry about that. We'll try to rejoin us tomorrow, not today again. Thomas Munia and Benjamin Pavard are the two right backs best placed to join Barca. According to Dario Sport, Villarreal's 1-4 is thought to be Xavi Hernandez's preferred choice, but release clause of 50 million euros for the Argentine World Cup winners proving prohibitive, we hear. But when we return later tomorrow, we'll talk about the Iduran family football competition and how it's unfolding from there later tomorrow. Akwa United were involved in a friendly game against Tatland this morning in Eket, and also on Friday scored the decisive goal. Akwa United intensifying preparations for the new campaign. Well, December 28th, we hear, is the date for when draws will be conducted. January 8th is the date, possible resumption of an abridged version of the NPFL. Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Solorix. Thank you, Emmanuel Edits. Thank you, Blyden. Okay. Well, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, one final dance tomorrow before the Christmas day.
Okay, I'm Brian James.
With the traces of the chosen, let's come together with a heart wide open. A generation of renegades, we don't have to stay alone. So brother, sister, find your spaceship and let it take you. We'll paint the sky with our energy, so we can dance from outer space. Through the dark we will radiate. They're gonna see us from outer space. They're gonna see us from outer space.
Locked in core values. Planet 101.1 FM, Uyo.
Good evening. This is the news update at 4. President Muhammadu Buhari says conducive accommodation will boost policemen's morale. Senior advocate of Nigeria, Sebastian Han, says federal government cannot restrict withdrawals from state account. Akwa Ibom State Governor Don Emmanuel says plans are on ground to resolve crisis between some of PDP governors and national leadership of the party. Akwa Ibom State Governor Don Emmanuel assured of completion of Ibekwe Korakata Road, linking several communities in Barenin Lekki government area. Top 10 magazine honors Capital Luxury as Luxury Company of the Year 2022. On the foreign scene, US accuses North Korea of selling arms to Russia's Wenger Group. Export Flying Eagles to know under 20 African force today. And that's the news update for this hour. I am Dara Udoma.
Before, when I call my guy, before I talk, my man, how far? I go here.
You have less than 1 minute for your call.
Auto waiting, but with Airtel Double Double, now steady relating.